Hey guys, this is Jamie. So today we're gonna be talking about one of my most favorite apps in the whole wide world, which is Grindr. So I've been on Grindr for probably, last time someone asked me this, I counted around 8 years-ish. So I've pretty much had bad stories on Grindr, good stories on Grindr, good hookups, good friendships, bad friendships. Um, I feel like at this point I've pretty much explored a lot of Grindr, and obviously I've used it in different countries as well. I use it out of boredom, out of horniness, out of whatever the fuck you want to use it for. So, um, I guess before I go into this video, in case you're new or you don't know, I'm poly, but I'm only in one relationship at the moment, and I want to keep it that way because I pretty much got tired out of the dating pool. But I still do hookups, so I still use Grindr. I wouldn't say as actively as I used to, but I still use it for hookups. I still have friends on there which I chat with, so I use it. I'd say closer to casually active, maybe. So yeah. So what I wanted to talk about was the fact that there is an alarming, or rather a very increasing number of trans women on Grindr and cis women as well. And normally I kind of... Factually, I do not enjoy having a woman on Grindr. But when it comes to trans women, I understand that it is very difficult for trans people to find their spaces. And my opinion on trans women on Grindr goes kind of back and forth. Um, but now that there's an influx, for instance, of cis women, and I've discussed this with other people, I've seen people discuss it on different Reddits, subreddits, on Grindr itself. It's just very weird to see specifically cis woman on Grindr. So I understand that Grindr gives you the option of putting cis woman and etc. And before we go further, I want to underline that this is cis woman looking for other dudes. I've also seen a few exceptions which were specifically there was a cis lesbian looking for other women, cis or trans, and that threw just everyone off the loop. But that was not in my region. I simply saw that online, so I cannot speak much more about this. But when it comes to the increasing amount of cis women, it makes me feel highly uncomfortable because one thing is going into a gay space. Like, I don't mind telling my friends, hey, I'm poly, or like making sort of more in-depth sexuality discussions about uh I don't know, like to, I went to this other guy's house and go into explicit detail with my friends. But like when there's it's a gay man space, basically. Let's just call it as it is. I feel, and this is one of the reasons why, for instance, I got off Tinder as well. Like, I feel like Grindr should still be kept as this sort of gay man space. I don't want some random cis girl to open the app and like see all my kinks. Um, Not that there's anything wrong with my kinks. It's just that it feels really weird. And it's from my perspective. And I'm also like, I'm really not trying to kink shame anyone. because I do think that, for instance, the BDSM community or certain like more revealing clothing should be allowed at Pride, but at the same time, I also think that families should also be allowed to Pride. But I do think that, for instance, like sexual acts on Pride shouldn't be in place as the march goes on, you know? So, but it's still it's a very difficult sort of division to discuss. But back to the topic at hand, um I understand that maybe this has to go with the fact that I just don't feel comfortable. um I don't feel very comfortable around like I don't feel comfortable around women because I had female abusers, and specifically it feels very weird for me just to go into my own space to see it not be the safe space. But and in general, this discussion is very difficult because I really don't want to put down trans women specifically. But at the same time, I do have to point out that there is a lot of internal transphobia in a lot of trans women which are on Grindr. Like, for instance, there was a discussion on the one of the Grindr subreddits, which was literally a trans woman said, "What difference does it make? Because I'm still a bottom with a dick and I get laid on Grindr. So why should it matter if I was a boy and now I'm a girl?" And it really feels like the trans women which are on Grindr have a lot of internalized transphobia by going there. And specifically, if and while I do understand that it's very difficult to step away from something you're used to, for instance, if the trans woman was on Grindr for a number amounts of years before realizing who she was, or coming out of the closet, even to herself. I understand that there are certain places and there is a sort of like grace period where you can't just like cut everything off cold turkey, I guess. But when you're transitioning, when you know who you are and you're going into a gay men's only space just because you have a dick, that is really bizarre. Like, seriously, just. I understand that Grindr has been advertising, and there was a period where they wanted to make it an all inclusive app, but that didn't happen. And thank fuck it didn't happen. And I don't think there's anything wrong with advocating for a gay male space. And also, please keep in mind that I'm a trans guy. So, obviously, and this is where I guess I'll complain. I've had a lot of trans women hit me up, even if I have that I'm gay and trans into men on the Grindr as it is written on my bio. So I really find it absolutely bizarre that they hit me up and they're like, "Yeah, but you're gay, so like I'm a man," and it's like, well, sweetheart, you literally have trans woman there and you go by she, her pronouns. And you identify as a woman, but you still say you're a man. And I'm not saying that this is like non-binary people who identify as genderqueer or any non-binary umbrella. These are like binary women who feel like they're somehow male just because they still have a dick. And for instance, they can understand that, for instance, I am pre-fallow, and they still hit me up. So it's kind of like they accept my trans identity, but they are ignoring themselves of their trans identity. So it is absolutely weird, to be honest. And in general, there's a lot of spaces like that. Like, I follow male polish on Reddit, and a lot of people have been complaining that it's not just guys showing off their nails anymore, but it's questioning people. And I feel like for questioning people, there should be more maybe questioning subreddits. But if it's a men's only space, it should be trans men, cis men, people mostly on the male spectrum, like trans mask or non-binary leaning towards male. But I understand that gender is much more complicated than that. But if you're a binary woman, cis or trans, why are you going into men's spaces? And I'm not saying this as if I don't believe in the contrary. Like, for instance, I don't think trans men should go into lesbian spaces. I don't think that trans men should be in women's spaces. I don't think that trans men should be in a woman's jail. So I'm pretty sort of strict on this, I guess, when it comes to my definitions on this. And I also wanted to emphasize that, I guess, and the last thing in the equation is obviously, well, maybe it's me because he thinks about this because it's my kink, but you can ask Jamie, what about cross-dressing people? And cross-dressing is still a kink, a fetish. Obviously, there are people who enjoy lingerie and cross-dressing and can still be woman or see it as a kink, whether cis or trans woman. But I just wanted to say that when it comes to cross-dressing, like, I just wish Grindr would sort of be more open towards cross-dressers and just men who just enjoy cross-dressing. There's nothing wrong with that kink or that fetish. And I feel like it's very weird that, like, for instance, if someone wants to find someone who cross-dresses, like, they, like, sure, I'm on the trans tribe because I'm a trans man. I understand that if you cross-dress, you have to put yourself under the trans tribe as well, because that's the way it works on Grindr. But at the same time, I just want to see some change. I just wish that trans women would value themselves as well, because obviously friends of friends who are trans women, like, still go on Grindr, and I just don't get it. I understand that the dating world is hard, and specifically, like, for straight trans people, it sounds like absolute hell. But I don't know, maybe it's from, again, I'm a gay trans guy. I'm already in a very long established relationship. I'm not looking for love. I'm literally just looking for hookups whenever I feel like it. So maybe there's something I'm missing. But I just feel like you should respect yourself. Like, I went on Grindr before I was on T. And yes, I was privileged enough to not encounter transphobia at the time. And the biggest transphobia I encountered at the time was mostly from other trans men. But people respected me as a guy. So maybe it's because of my experience that I assume that everyone should be kinder to themselves. It's just that I feel that if we start by being kinder to ourselves and not being transphobic innerly to ourselves, as corny as it is, we can change the world that way. Kind of like one person at a time thing. So yeah, so I truly wish that people love themselves a bit more. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, please give me a like, a comment. If you liked this video, obviously, please subscribe because, I mean, I just want some monetization. I'm pretty tired. Yeah, thank you very much for watching.